Hi, I want to talk about a few things regarding TF2 and pyro and so on. I should preface this by saying I had a break from video games starting in 2015, but I've gradually been starting to play again, and recently have been playing a lot of TF2 again since 2018. Still a little bit rusty, but I still hold an interest for obscure game mechanics, finding funny ways to kill people, things like that. I have a few ideas for videos I want to make that are similar to my old TF2 videos, but it takes a lot of time and luck to make those kinds of videos, so I thought in the meantime I could make some other videos that don't rely so much on luck. And in this video I'm going to compare pyro as I once knew it from 2015 to the pyro of today in 2019 and share my thoughts. I do have a few opinions on balance, but I'd like you to keep in mind that I've never been a very competitive-minded player. You know, it was always more important to me in video games to do whatever I found funny or interesting, and that often means losing. Anyway, I'm just saying I don't think my word has much weight behind it as far as talking about what's balanced or what's best for the game, whatever the fuck that means. So I'll mostly be speaking in a very general, objective sense, just looking at what's different, what's new, and how that might affect the way that you play, or rather, how I play, I should say. So first thing, flame visuals have a nice new particle effect, and also the visuals now represent the actual hitboxes a lot more accurately than before. There's a console command you can use, tf debug flamethrower. This will display the true hitboxes that the game uses to detect hits, and the new visuals actually move in the same way that the actual hitboxes do. Unlike before, there was a complete disconnect. You sort of just had to guess where the actual hitboxes were. So that's good, although I will admit I did take joy in winning fights because I understood how the particles were moving better than the enemy, and they would get pissed off because they got burnt despite being nowhere near the flame visuals. This part, I'm not really sure about the specifics exactly, but you should know that each flame has a random speed, spread, and lifetime. I mean, it's not completely random, obviously. They're not flying all over the place or anything, but just within this cone of fire, there's an element of randomness. You can see the spread. Each hitbox deviates from the center slightly. I'll demonstrate with my friend the bot here. You'll notice that some boxes travel slightly further than others, which would suggest some randomness in the speed and lifetime. I want you to pay attention to the blue boxes, which are the actual damage dealing boxes. The red boxes you see are just client-side visuals, so you can ignore those for this. You'll notice that some of the blue boxes will disappear sooner than others, not necessarily in the order that they were born, so to speak, which is indicative of randomness in how long the boxes exist in the world. Now, ever since the patch, it would seem that the speed of each flame is less random. You know, they sort of group up nice and tight at the end of their lifetime, whereas it was a lot more scattered out before the patch. Not so sure about the spread. I can't really say much for that. Sorry, not really sure. But the lifetime of each flame is definitely a lot longer than before. I know this because you can extinguish pyros without the degreaser now. Come to think of it, I'm not so sure if the speed difference is just a side effect of the network changes, which would have an effect on the lifetime of your flames, giving them more range. Then again, even in listen servers, where latency shouldn't be a factor, it was a lot more spread out, I remember. So I'm sure they've changed the speed in some way. Also, it seems the stream of flames seems to be a bit more dense than before. I'm not sure if they've increased the hitbox per second fire rate, but it does look like there's less gaps in the stream between each box. I do know for a fact they changed the hitbox per ammo rate. It used to be 2 boxes per ammo point before, and now I believe it's 4. I'll just check again here. Yeah, it looks like 4. So that's interesting. They've effectively given the flamethrower more ammo in total. Although with the way that damage and hit detection works now, I'm sure that they've worked it out so it makes sense. I forgot to mention they've also added a minimum time that you can shoot the flamethrower. You used to be able to just tap mouse 1 and it would shoot 1 box at a time, but it seems there's now a minimum amount of time or boxes that you have to fire before it will stop. You can cancel or shorten this by switching weapons. I think you can probably taunt. Yeah, taunting works. Or maybe you could kill yourself. So it seems there's a number of ways to cancel this. I quite like most of these changes. I think they make the flames feel more consistent, more responsive, which is definitely what you want in a fast-paced game like this. Still not too sure what to think about the ammo change or the minimum firing time, but I don't think it matters that much anyway. Before the patch, flames would inherit your velocity in the direction you move and add that to the base propulsion of the flamethrower. For example, if you were to look directly up and strafe and shoot flames, before the patch, these flames would be moving left and right with me at the same speed as me, while also going up from, shooting the flamethrower. I did use this in some old videos, for example, to bend flames around enemies so that they make contact with the flames later. This doesn't really work anymore. With the way that hit detection works now, I can't think of a reason you'd want to do that anyway, but I still think it's a shame that you can't bend flames anymore. I always thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, what I'm getting at is, it seems the direction you move no longer has any effect on the direction that the flames move. That being said, your movement does still have an influence on flame movement, just not in the same way as before. The way it works now is, your velocity is still added to the speed of each flame, but only in the direction you are aiming, and only in proportion to the direction you are moving. I've been struggling to find a way to describe this in words. Basically, the closer that your aim lines up with the direction you're moving, the more of your total speed is added to the flames. That still sounds really convoluted, I'm sorry. I am planning to make a video about flame control, where I hope to go more in depth into that, but I still want to cover a lot more stuff on this video, so I got to move on to the next thing, which is a flame collision. In the past, flames would actually pass through walls and floors and objects completely, and then when it made contact with an enemy, it would check if there was any obstruction between the point of firing and the point of contact, and then if there was nothing in between, then it would register the hit. When a flame makes contact with the surface now, post-patch, it will change trajectory, move parallel to the last surface it makes contact with, and this can go for multiple surfaces. For example, if you shoot off this wall, it will first go up and then sideways when it hits the balcony. Flames will also lose any inherited speed upon contact with the surface, instantly returning to base speed. For example, if I were to make myself stuck in an object, and if I take knockback while stuck, it will actually store my velocity, therefore giving my flames more range. And now my flames are going really far, but if I shoot the wall, you can see that it loses the extra speed when it touches the wall. It comes out really fast, but as soon as it touches the wall, it only travels as far as if I was shooting it normally, without any knockback stored up. About that far, see. I should also mention that your flames will still rise up over time, even after touching a surface. So if you shoot them directly at the ground, they won't stick to the ground, they will still rise up. Or if you shoot at a ceiling, they will sort of bounce up and down, as you can see. So the flames aren't exactly sliding along the surface, they're just being redirected away from the surface. I think these changes are interesting. My gut tells me that they only made these changes because with the new flame visuals, you can't really have flames going through walls and so on. And I guess it does look kind of weird if you're moving left and right and the flames move left and right. Although, like I said before, I'm kind of bummed out that you lose that extra dimension of control of your flames. But, that's fine anyway. I feel like the collision should have been like this from the start. Even the old flame visuals would actually, bounce off the walls while the hitboxes go through them. So I'm not sure why they didn't just do that in the first place. Like I was saying before, hit detection no longer draws a line from the point of firing to the point of contact. Just anytime the flame hitboxes make contact with a player's collision hull, it will deal damage. So, in fact, they could be completely out of sight and you can still deal damage to them. Also, pre-patch, a single hitbox would only deal damage to each enemy once during its lifetime. For example, if I was to shoot this pyro, it would just deal 1 tick of damage, and the hitbox would continue to travel through, potentially damaging multiple other enemies if there were any on the other side, but only 1 tick of damage per enemy. So even if the pyro flew over and touched the hitbox again, there wouldn't be any effect. And that has been changed, so now a single hitbox can damage an enemy multiple times. And it will in fact deal multiple ticks of damage for as long as the hitbox is in contact. However, the number of boxes in contact has no effect on the actual damage done. It's all about how long there is any contact with the hitboxes. So essentially what's going on is the game will check a few times every second if the hitboxes are making contact with an enemy, and if there is any contact, it will deal damage for each time it checks. Now, as for the actual damage numbers per tick, there's a few things I'm not really sure about still, but it seems to be primarily based on 2 factors. First being the age of the oldest hitbox currently in contact, and second, how long has there been unbroken contact. I'll give you a few examples now. So if you're in point blank range, the hitboxes will be very young when they make contact. So the first tick will do 13 damage, which is max damage, but 2 ticks, the second tick will ramp down to 6, which is the minimum damage. And if you keep firing, it will gradually ramp from the minimum damage back up to the max damage, like so, back up to 12, and then he dies. However, if the hitboxes are older, the max damage will be 7, and then ramp down to 3, which is the minimum damage for older particles. And when you maintain unbroken contact with older particles, the maximum damage after ramp up is still only 7. Also, the ramp up will be reset if contact is broken, or in other words, if a tick passes without contact. One interesting result of this is if an enemy is against a wall and you shoot them from point blank, you won't get the max ramp up of 13 because they would still be making contact with the old flames that are stuck against the wall. So the max ramp up is only 7 in this case. You can get around this, however, by angling the flames away so that they don't make contact with the old flames. And if you aim like this, you can get up to 12 in this case. Now, the thing that has me confused is the rate of the ramp up. I'll just demonstrate by killing this guy, looking directly at him and firing. And I want you to keep an eye on the damage numbers here. So it didn't even ramp up to 13, it was 12 on the last tick. Now I'll do the same thing to this one, but I'll start by looking away, and then firing, and then moving my mouse over to him. Okay, so that was just a really weird case where it was 6, like it's just a constant 6. I don't really know what happened there. That's not what I was intending to demonstrate. It just goes to show how fucking weird this is. But I'll try again on this one. Start by looking away and firing and then aiming at them. And it ramps up immediately to 13 there and stays on 13. I'm pretty sure that's unintentional. My best guess is they probably want to increase the ramp up speed for older particles to reward accuracy at longer ranges, but I think it might be basing that off the oldest particle existing in the world, not the oldest particle that's in contact. I don't really know. It's been fucking doing my head in trying to figure it out. Putting aside the weird ramp up, I'm pretty happy with these changes. They seem to make a lot of sense when you bring them together. One thing I was confused about, however, is in the patch notes, it says something about the density. Yeah, right here, based on density of flame encountered. But that doesn't seem to be related to the number of boxes in contact, which is a shame because something I used to enjoy before the patch was bunching lots of boxes together so they make contact all at once and deal massive burst damage, but you can't really do that anymore. So if I could change one thing, it would be to find a way to raise the damage based on the number of boxes that make contact within a certain amount of time. I think that might be a good way to reward accuracy, besides the constant stream. They also changed how afterburn works. Afterburn duration is now based on how long they're in contact with direct flames. So you won't get the full duration anymore if you just scratch them with a lick of flame, which is fair, I guess. But what I thought was kind of weird is if you hit them with another flame when they're about to be put out, it doesn't reset the timer, you know, they just get put out anyway, which I thought was kind of weird. I'm pretty sure if you hit them with a secondary, it will extend the timer, it will give you the full afterburn time that way, but that doesn't really make sense to me. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the flame changes now, especially because the flames last long enough to extinguish pyros without the degreaser, which is the most important thing in my book. It definitely feels like pyro is a lot more consistent, a lot more reliable, probably plays a lot more fair for both parties, and I especially think it's really good that you can see how the flames actually move now, so there's no confusion. This is taking a lot longer than I expected. I'm kind of exhausted, to be honest. I've only just covered flames, not even air blast yet. So I'll probably have to make this into a series. That is assuming anyone wants to watch this, or I'd just be wasting my time. I'm sorry if you found this boring. I know I tend to drag on about details no one really cares about, but definitely let me know what you think in the comments. Since I'm already on the mic, I thought this might be a good opportunity to make a few announcements. First, I've made a Steam group and a Discord server. I'll leave a link for those in the description. Also, if you didn't know, I have a Twitter where I have been posting short videos demonstrating some of my findings in TF2. And I also sometimes post my new YouTube videos unlisted before they go public. So if you want to be among the first of the first to see my new releases, go follow the Twitter. I also want to give a few shout outs to some pyro players that I think deserve some love. Firstly, Christian Ma, he's really good. If you enjoy my pyro videos, you'll probably enjoy his. Also, shout out to Slender, also makes similar pyro videos, good stuff. And last but not least, please check out Bagel on YouTube. He does a lot of reflecting and jumping and raking, and he's also a pretty cool guy. I think I'll end the video there. It's gonna be a nightmare editing this in the morning. But I hope you enjoyed this very informative video, and thank you guys for always supporting me. Bye.